Hello, my name is Josie and you're listening to the Yoga Local podcast, which also comes with a blog attached. I hope you're well. I'm recording this from our studio here in Wellingborough in the UK, and we're a traditional Hatha yoga studio. And this is relevant today because I wanted to talk about the breath and how the breath is this really powerful tool that is a great constant in our life, but how it's often overlooked, it's unnoticed. And that point was proven today. I just had a chap coming in who's buying a gift for his wife. I'm not going to let that person know who that is. But he reckons he's got his breath sorted. I was talking about this because I was writing the blog at the time. And he told me, I can breathe in and I can breathe out. And I think I've pretty much nailed it. And he said, and if you put eating and drinking on that list as well, we can tick that off the list too. And that was a funny joke, right? And we had a little giggle, but often in those humorous moments, I think we really have that inner knowingness that we're using humor to distract ourselves from something that we may recognize as truth, and something that we're ignoring. So just remember, we'll need to pay attention to that breath soon enough when it becomes restricted, when it becomes interrupted. If we're ever aware of our breath becoming erratic through stress and anxiety, right, then we notice the breath, okay, and then it's a problem, and it's a problem that we can't overlook. And breath work, and when I talk about breath work, I mean specific practices, ratios, techniques that are done consistently and over time. They are the ones that will help us breathe better. We are science says, you can look this up, about 10% of our capacity is what we're currently working with. So that's a whole 90% to play with. And when we think the breath pretty much influences every single organ and cell, then 90% is going to make a huge difference to how you feel. So the yoga tradition calls breath work pranayama. Pranayama practice. And a little spoiler alert for the chap that just popped it in, it's not just about breathing in and out. That does not constitute pranayama practice. I think possibly because of the pushback that we get from people when we have these conversations. Folks come through the door and it's dismissed, it's made fun of, it's just passed over as something insignificant. And I think it's for this reason that a lot of the modern yoga establishments are overlooking the breath in their teaching. I certainly had that experience myself, have had that experience myself. I know there are exceptions. I know there's some brilliant yoga teachers out there who have gone deeper into these teachings and have done their work and worked with these practices. But my experience of more conventional commercial gym kind of yoga, there's no breath work, certainly no breath ratios where we're specifically looking to organize the breath, the inhale and the exhale. There's no specific breath work for accessing certain energy centers. There's really nothing like linking the breath and the posture. In fact, it's pretty much all posture, and we're kind of left to our own devices with the breath, and that can sometimes mean our breath is jagged and ragged and unsmooth. We're grasping at the breath, we're clawing at the breath, we're waiting for that moment to be over in the posture, like gripping, and that is not going to contribute to a healthy, balanced nervous system, which is where your yoga practice is supposed to be taking you, by the way. So if it's not, then you need to be just checking in there, because you might be being sold short. Yes, you might be taught to breathe in and out through the nose. That's good practice. Throat or mouth breathing is not great for us in certain aspects. In some breath practices specifically, we can work with an open mouth, but it's not the rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And you might also, in regular classes, and especially Ashtanga kind of classes, you might get taught Ujjayi breathing, which is a noisy kind of breath. It's also called victorious breath. And it creates this raspy sound at the back of the throat caused by the constriction in the back of the throat as you breathe in. I'm not sure if you can hear that, and breathe out through the mouth. But technically, that isn't pranayama either, because the tradition specifies, this is not me, this is in the Yoga Sutra, it's that pranayama has to have an element of breath retention to it. And that doesn't mean that holding the breath unconsciously or grasping at the breath. It's like the controlled, conscious breath retention, which is called kumbhaka in the tradition. So that is pranayama. And yeah, like, I think again, like the guy that makes the joke because he knows there's some truth in it, like, are you being sold short, right? There aren't really any shortcuts to this science. Just breathing doesn't count. Okay, sorry, it really doesn't count. If you want the benefits of breathing work, breathing practices, you really want the traditional techniques, the things that have been practiced over time. Remember that yoga is a science, and it's been practiced diligently, religiously, even though it's not a religion, but like the discipline over the centuries and the love and devotion to practice and how it's been passed orally from student to teacher, from teacher to teacher. It's kind of stood the test of time, and now it's even like proving its worth in modern standards. Why do you think folks like Wim Hof, right, and the Wim Hof method, why do you think people like him are now taking the stage? And why do you think those books that well, one comes to mind, I've spoken about this before, Breath by James Nestor, like that's flying off the shelves. And why is that? Well, it's because these techniques work and the benefits are huge. And let's just cover off some of those benefits. So first of all, breathing practice, breath work, specific breath practice will help you to decrease any inflammation in your body. And we know scientifically that inflammation is at the root cause of most modern day diseases. So like inflammation is that kind of marker in the body that something is wrong, right? Something is inflamed, and this can trigger all kinds of situations in the body, heart disease, asthma, anything that is creating inflammation in the body is something that we want to be taking care of. So breathing can do that. Breathing practice can do that. We want to also breathe because it improves our immune response. So especially at this time of year, like if we don't want to go down with flus and coughs and colds, we can level up our immune system by practicing breath, okay, and specific ratios and techniques. Breath work will alkalize our blood. It increases our lung capacity, increases our adrenaline, so it helps us to overcome. And if we can learn how to work with adrenaline, like skillfully, it doesn't become a problem where it's overly stimulating and burning us out, and actually increasing our energy, bringing our energy levels to a place where we are most optimum. So research shows as well that if you cultivate healthy breathing in daily life, they can touch every aspect of your life. So that's your job performance, that's your creativity, that's your ability to sleep, it's your peace of mind, it's your sense of purpose. It's like something that will creep into everything that you do. And yes, this is just breathing. I'm really not sure just how many of us are aware of how powerful the breath is, and what a creative and elegant tool it is to change our state, to change how we feel in any moment. And it's something that we can all do at any time on the go. We don't need any special equipment. We have it inbuilt. It's inbuilt within us. And that means we can change our state when we feel anxious, when we feel nervous, right? Before a meeting, before a presentation, when we're meeting, our boyfriend's mother for the first time, right? When we're distracted, when we're overwhelmed, when we're stressed, simply by managing our breath, being able to manage our breath, and having practiced that as a skill. No pills, no potions, right? You don't need the fancy equipment, and anyone can do it. So even if you thought yoga was about flexibility, which it's not, and you can listen to my previous podcasts about that, there's no excuses for not becoming a practitioner of yoga. It doesn't have to be all about asana. It doesn't have to be about your level of strength physically, your gymnastic prowess. Yoga is a state, right? And it's a state that we're looking to work towards via the shaping of the body, via the shaping of the breath, via the shaping of our energy in very specific, skillful ways that are scientifically sound and have been proven and tested by the yogis themselves. So this is why I get so excited about practice, because I know it has so many, many benefits that we're kind of dismissing, just like the guy who says, oh, I can breathe in and breathe out. We're dismissing this beautiful practice as something that's just about touching our toes, and we are being sold short. And it doesn't have to be that way, and we can all get some benefit in some way. So yeah, we can fling humor at things all we like, we can distract ourselves from the truth, but ultimately, when we really just give ourselves some time, right? When you come to class here, when you come to our studio, the breath is up front and center. It's the first thing that we'll onboard you with. And, 10 out of 10 times, right? When people come specifically to our beginners course, in particular, that they're going home wondering, wow, I never realized just how poor a breather I was, and how important it could be to actually practice this stuff. And they also go home and report back later that they've had the best night's sleep ever. And these effects are immediate, right? And I know for some of us who can't sleep, like that's amazing. To be able to sleep well, because then that sets that whole chain of events in the body where we are in a place of healing. Like our sleep is the biggest kind of chunk of our time, where we spent kind of rebooting our systems and resetting and undoing some of the stuff that we've been doing throughout the day. So if we're not sleeping, that's a double whammy. Not sleeping, not breathing, right? We're in trouble. So much like most things that go on quietly or in the background, right, doing their thing without any kind of like demand for payment or reward, the breath is taken for granted. We take the breath for granted. And, it needs to be a relationship that we're nurturing consistently and spending some time with, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time. But breath is our life force, right? Without it, we wouldn't be here. And, yoga goes even more deeper into the breath as this vehicle for life force energy, the part of us that keeps us animated, that first impulse of life to create. And when you cultivate this life force through your breath, traditional practices like pranayama, we get to harness it. We use the practices, we use the posture, the asana, we use the pranayama, the breath practices in tandem. And that allows us to start to help to direct the breath. We shape the breath. We learn how to understand the energetic component of different breathing patterns. And then this is when it becomes, a skillful practice, and our breath is no longer just something that is there, something that we take for granted, something that is random or left to chance. We can skillfully start to use our breath to create any state that we wish, whether we're looking to be less stressed, less rushed, less hurried, more grounded, more stable, more confident, more capable, more lifted up, right? Those things are all available to us when we start these practices. And what happens is we become stronger for it, right? We trust ourselves to be able to pick up these practices and use them appropriately, which gives us more resilience. And that just then seeps into every area of our life. We become capable in all things, or more capable in all things, like our relationships, our jobs, and all those things that I mentioned earlier. It's really an understanding is that when you cultivate that life force and it becomes more of who you are, if you start to build that relationship to your life force energy, then you become a force of nature. You become a force for good. Yoga is power. It gives you your power back, and then you can use that. And hopefully, the idea is that as a yogi, and other practices that we learn as part of the whole complete practice, we use that power as a force of good. We use that power to nurture ourselves primarily first, put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, get ourselves ready, and then we can go out in the world and help and support those around us in our own unique way, whatever that is for us. And we learn what that is as well through our yoga practice. So I'm hoping you're getting a sense of how this all kind of comes together, and something that you might like the sound of, because like this month, we're in it now, December, is our month of celebration and appreciation. And as part of that, I'm inviting you all to embrace the festive season, embrace the sense of celebration and appreciation. And specifically, we're going to be celebrating and appreciating our breath. We will show you how to use the breath in practical ways, to either reduce stress, to find that stability, to give you that get up and go power, lift yourself up, and and maybe all of the above, because that's the promise, right? As you learn these skills, all of them become tools that you can use in appropriate times in your life, appropriate seasons, appropriate situations, in appropriate experiences. And all from just this little thing that's going on all the time in the background, your breath, all through your breath. So I hope you like the sound of that. I've included in the blog and the show notes the timetable and which classes are going to give you different energetic experiences. So we'll be working with different breath ratios and different practices. It's no good throwing everything in one class. It just gets messy, right? It's a bit like chucking paint at a wall, right? It'll look a little messy and mixed up, and all the colors start to merge into brown, right? We want to be skillful and specific. So moon, sun, fire have very different outcomes, very different breath work that we use, and different poses and postures, because the posture facilitates how we breathe, okay? So all our workshop clinics as well are on there. We've got some great extra practices linked to the chakras, which are a bit like the battery storage centers for our energy. And then our restore practices all month are all going to be about celebrating the breath, its power, its spaciousness, the calmness, and how we find a commitment to ourselves through the breath. So I would love it if you could share this post, share the blog post, follow us on Instagram. We've got a great 25-day Advent calendar countdown for us all to have some fun with. And just start to explore if this is something that you're kind of thinking is resonating with you, and you want to just dive in a little deeper. Just start by following us, or get stuck in and come and join us on a class. I've got an offer in the links for you to get you started. So please do go and look at that, and I will hopefully see you in class soon. Bye for now.